Wow, hello YouTube. So loads of people who have sent me comments and asked me to make a comment on the present situation the world, the universe and everything finds itself in. And I will. And this video represents my opinion. It's not based on anything else. I'm not a scientist or a global expert in anything. I've been observing, global events for over a decade. Every, major disaster, man-made catastrophe, I have put a little bit of energy into trying to understand, and I've observed the actions that have brought us out the other side of it. So it's based on no more or less than my opinion. This first video is going to be about kind of where we find ourselves and what's going on in the United Kingdom, and then I'm going to do subsequent little videos, short vids on tips and tricks and stuff that you might be interested in taking on yourself. First thing I want to talk about is where are we? So we are in the crux of a kind of global pandemic, and I think it's accepted globally that that's where we are, and that's what's going on. When you're in a natural disaster or man-made catastrophe, it's too late to prepare. We are where we are, and we've got to make the best of it. So if you have emergency food storage, you've got long-term food storage, if you have a preparedness position, well, good luck to you. And if you haven't, then you have to do the best from the position you find yourself in. So I'm a prepper. I've had long-term food storage on the shelves for probably the last 7 to 10 years, and we haven't used any of it. I haven't opened up any of my preps. They're all kind of still there. They're all sealed up. 5-gallon tubs of rice and pasta and baking flour, tinned goods, dehydrated dried foods, all still there, and I haven't used any of it. I have cracked it open, and when I put stuff to one side, when I put food stuff to one side, I buy a 20-pound bag of pasta. I'll break it up into 1.5 pound or 2 pound bags. I'll vacuum seal them, and that's one meal for our family. And then I'll put it in a 5-gallon bucket with however many I can get in. I'll put the date on it, and I seal the bucket up and I put it in the garage. Same with rice, same with flour. I opened buckets the other day to see if food was okay, and I've got pasta with 2004 on it. I took a handful of pasta out, I put it into boiling water, I cooked it up, and it was fine. Same with flour. 5-gallon tubs of flour that were put aside in 2011, and I did the same again. So I used to buy 25-pound bags of flour, break them up into 2-pound bags and vacuum seal them, which is what it takes to make a loaf of bread, decent sized loaf of bread for my family. Fit as many as I can in a 5-gallon bucket, put the lid on, put it to one side. So we haven't used any of our long-term food storage, and we haven't had to. What I'll say right now is there is no food shortages in the United Kingdom. There are no food shortages in the United Kingdom, and I'll explain why. Because we spent 3 years negotiating Brexit and leaving the European Union. In that time, we didn't know whether there was going to be import-export duties, whether there was going to be food shortages, yada yada yada. There was 3 years of uncertainty for the United Kingdom of food items started to increase their stocks because there was an uncertainty about the UK's membership of the European Union and whether that would involve tariffs and more expensive foodstuffs. So over 3 years, manufacturers have started to store their products. So every food storage facility in the UK is full, and it is full because of Brexit. No other reason. The two biggest cold storage companies in the UK over that 3-year period of uncertainty built two of the biggest cold storage facilities in Europe. So the United Kingdom has no shortage of food for its population. So why are people panic buying? Why are people now trying to buy food to have a long-term food storage larder? And I think there are kind of, the answer is a simple one, you know, because the government on one hand are starting to turn around to people and say stop panic buying, whilst giving them uncertain information and futures. So the government are saying you may need to go home and self-isolate for a fortnight. Well, if your mum and dad and 2 children, that's 4 people in the house that you have to feed for a fortnight, and most people in the UK buy their household items week to week. So at very best, most people had 1 week's food in the house, and that means if they've got to self-isolate for 2 weeks, well, they need to go shopping. The government and our Prime Minister are going on TV and saying this may last 12 weeks, right? So suddenly people are saying, well, hang on a minute, I might not need food just for 2 weeks of self-isolation, I might need food for longer than that for 4 people in our household, so I better buy a little bit more. So that is why people are panic buying, because some people are scared, some people are concerned about an uncertain future, and having put food aside in the house in an uncertain environment is just good sense. So that's why people are panic buying, and that's why the supermarkets are empty. But there is no food shortage in the United Kingdom at all, and there is not going to be. So people are starting to prepare for having to possibly self-isolate. The other thing that people don't know is exactly what I've told you, that no one from central or local government has gone on national TV or the media and explained to people why they don't need to commit to additional long-term food storage. So I think the government needs to get a slightly better message across to people, and people need to be slightly reassured that they're going to buy less. They're not going to stop buying more. They're not going to stop buying additional foodstuffs to put on the shelf, and the government need to accept that. So the manufacturers and the supermarkets need to increase the supply line, need to bring more foods forward, and people have to be slightly reassured that the country's not going to run out of food. And somewhere in the middle is the position that we are all going to end up at, hopefully. Right. So that's what I think is going on in the country, and the reason kind of behind it. The other thing that people are starting to say is that the supermarkets should ration food to customers. Now and that makes perfect sense, you know, just buy 1 loaf because you take it home. A loaf will last us, my little family, 2 or 3 days, and that's probably all we need. Long-term food storage was never about buying things you don't need with money you haven't got, and that's what's happening in the supermarkets today. When me and my wife go to the supermarket, if there's normally a trolley with loads of bread, perishable goods, that the sell-by dates are going to run out, and they're maybe going to run out tomorrow. So they're reduced items, and they're on this big trolley. Well, what we do, if there are 3 or 4 loaves there, historically, we bought all of them. You know, I'll come home with 4 loaves from the supermarket, and instead of them being £1 each, they're 27 pence or something like that. and then we put them in our big chest freezer and we freeze them. The amount of things that you can freeze is kind of almost endless. You know, I can't. The amount of times my wife has come to me and said, "Oh, you know, can you freeze this type of cheese?" And she's instantly on the internet to find out. She goes, "Oh yeah, you can." And the same again. You know, they were just about to go out of date, so she bought the half a dozen that were there and put them in the freezer. So long-term food storage has always been about saving money. It was always about good housekeeping. It wasn't about, you know, natural disasters, man-made catastrophes, emergencies. It was about good housekeeping, saving money, feeding a family for less. So that was the driving force behind, you know, having a good larder. So this is going to be the end of this first little video. That just lays the ground for where we are. When I come back, I'm going to be talking about how to protect yourself from the coronavirus, what I'm doing, and how we go forward from here.